Hello again, my DIY loving friends. I'm Sarah, and this is Medicated Housewife DIY, where crafting and mental health come together. And today we're diving into the world of high-end home decor without the high-end price tag. Get ready to transform your space with some unbelievable Dollar Tree DIYs that'll have your friends asking, where did you buy that? And spoiler alert, we're using those tumbling tower blocks we all love so much. So what are we waiting for? Let's go DIY together. For this DIY, we are using a total of 54 of the natural color tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree and super glue wood glue also from Dollar Tree. To begin with, I'm making 2 U shapes and I'm using 3 blocks each, so that's 2 sets of 3, as you see me doing right here, and I am placing 2 single blocks in between the 2 U shapes, one on each side. So now it looks like an O with 2 blocks that are in the middle of it. I'm going to repeat that exact same thing one more time. So I'm going to end up with 2 of these identical O shapes, both of which have the 2 single blocks in the middle of both sides of the O, as you can see right here. Next, I'm making 4 sets of 3 blocks that are all going to be attached end to end. Now, I'm going to be needing a total of 6 of these 3 block sets, but for now, I'm only making 4 of them for the time being. Then I'm going to be making 8 sets of 2 blocks that are also going to be attached end to end. So once again, that is 8 sets of 2 blocks. I take one of the 3 block sets and I'm going to make a U shape by attaching a 2 block set on each side of that 3 block set. And then I'm going to repeat that again, so I have 2 matching larger U shapes. I take my 2 O shapes that we made earlier and I'm going to place them inside those 2 U shapes that we just made, as you see me doing right here. Taking another 3 block set and 2 of the 2 block sets, I make another large U shape that will fit beneath the O shape in the middle, and repeat that again for another large U shape for my second O shape. And I'm going to place that underneath the O shape. With my 2 sides that are laid out in front of me, I take a single block and I'm going to glue it to the middle of the top U shape on the first side, and then I'm going to repeat that again with another single block on the top U shape on the second side. I take that middle O shape on the first side and I'm going to add some glue to the middle top and the top ends of the 2 single blocks on the sides, and I'm going to attach that middle piece to the top U shape. Then I attach a single block to the middle of the bottom of that O shape and add some glue to the ends of the bottom U shape and attach the bottom to the middle piece, completing that first side. And I know it sounds more complicated than it actually is. You can always pause the video or replay if you need to. I repeat the exact same thing again on the second side. So I'm going to end up with these 2 matching window pane kind of looking, they look like a window pane kind of looking sides. And here's where I make 2 more of those 3 block sets that I mentioned earlier. They are attached end to end. And with that, we've used a total of 54 of these natural color tumbling tower blocks. Next, I've made a mixture of hot water with some strong, cheap instant coffee to use as a stain for my blocks. I like using the instant coffee to stain these natural color tumbling tower blocks because it gives me a really warm but still very sheer brown color with all of the natural wood grain still coming through, plus it dries super quick. I start by staining the 2 3 block sets on all sides and on the ends, and then I'm going to move on to staining both of my large window pane looking sides that we've created, making sure that all the areas are covered with the stain, including those inside edges and all of those ends, before I set the whole thing aside to fully dry. I have one of these small bamboo cutting boards that's from Dollar Tree, and I mixed some water with apple barrel matte white paint, which I will link for you below, to make a whitewash, to paint the cutting board and just to give it just like a tinge of white color, but still leaving the wood tone showing through. And I did 2 coats of that whitewash on my cutting board. I used that same white matte paint, but this time without any water, along the edge of my cutting board, just to kind of highlight it, and I wanted to add some contrast between that edge and the board. Once that coffee stain had dried, I take those 2 3-block sets that I made later on, and I'm going to glue them to the top and to the bottom middle of one of the window pane looking sides, as you see me doing right here, and then I put that aside so that it would dry. Once they were mostly dry, I glue those 2 3-block sets to the second window pane looking side and allow it to fully dry for several hours. Once those 2 sides dried together, I turn my cutting board upside down and using some loose blocks just as spacers, they are not part of the project, I add some glue to the top of those 2 sides and center it onto the bottom of my cutting board, using the spacer blocks to help keep it centered, and I allow this whole thing to dry overnight. And this is my tall tumbling tower block pedestal riser, and oh my gosh, you guys, I love this riser. I'm so in love with the pattern of the blocks, and I really like the light brown stain combined with that whitewash. It looks spring-like to me, so fresh, and such an upscale decor item that works so well in so many different kinds of decor styles. Neutral enough to really blend seamlessly anywhere. Love it for candles or plants or any other kinds of decorative items. This DIY is a tumbling tower block winner. For this quick DIY, we're using a total of 18 of the dreaded brown tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree, as well as the super glue wood glue also from Dollar Tree. You all knew I'd throw in a brown block DIY, didn't you? Well, I wasn't going to disappoint you. So now ultimately we're going to be making 3 sets of 6 blocks, which totals 18 blocks in the whole project. So we start by making 2 sets of 3 blocks. They are attached side by side. And then I take 2 of the 3 of these sets of 3 and I'm going to attach them end to end for 1 set of 6 blocks. As you see right here, hopefully that made sense to you. I repeat that 2 more times until I have these 3 sets of 6 blocks that are all attached the exact same way. And again, that's a total of 18 blocks used. Once my 3 sets of 6 are dry, I am using a sanding sponge to sand down the brown blocks, and thankfully, this bunch of brown blocks are sanding down really nicely, unlike the blocks I used in last week's video, which, if you saw the video, did not sand down the same way. They were very muddy and messy looking, so I had to paint them. These brown blocks are from a brand new case of blocks directly from the Dollar Tree website, so hopefully, fingers crossed, the rest of the case will also sand down as nicely as these do. The brown blocks in general, in my opinion, look so much better when they are sanded and distressed. I have this square wood box, which is part of a wood drawer set from Dollar Tree. I'm using the outer part of the drawer set for this project, not the little inner box that usually has a shape cut out of it, if you know what I mean. I'm using this apple barrel white gloss paint, which I will link for you below, to paint both the inside of the box and the outside of the box. I ended up doing 2 or maybe 3 coats of the white gloss for full coverage on the box, and I set it aside to fully dry. To begin assembling, I'm attaching one of the 6 block sets to each side of the third 6 block set that's placed on the bottom, as you see right there, to create this U shape, and I give that some time for it to dry. Once those 3 sets of blocks were dry, I add some wood glue to the inside of each side. And I'm going to carefully slide the painted wood box in between the 2 block sets so that the block sets come up about halfway up the sides of the wood box. And then I set that aside to fully dry overnight. And this is my wood box and tumbling tower block raised planter, and I'm always so pleased with the distressed look of the sanded brown blocks, and this is no different. I especially love the look of the sanded blocks against a glossy crisp white wood box. I think they look great together, and this little mini raised planter really packs a punch decor-wise. So easy and so impressive looking. I also think it would look great in a set of 2 or even more. For this DIY, I've got these 2 long wood thick planks from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue them together to use as a base for this project. I've got this 1/2 inch wide copper pipe from Home Depot. It was like $9 for a really long pipe, and I'll link something similar for you below. I used a black Sharpie marker to mark 6 1-inch sections on the pipe, and then also 6 1.5-inch sections as well. My husband, Mr. Medicated, and he loves that nickname, by the way, he had this little pipe cutter in his stash, but I will link something similar for you below. It does have a little bit of a learning curve, but in general, it's an easy tool to use. You place the pipe into the tool, lining up your marking with the blade, and then you close the vise around the pipe and twist the tool around it over and over until it cuts through the pipe. Once you get the hang of it, it goes quickly. I cut 6 of the 1-inch pipe pieces and then 6 of the 1.5-inch pipe pieces. I was easily able to remove any printed markings off of the pipe using a little bit of nail polish remover and a cotton pad. They came off really easily. I also used a sanding sponge to sand off any of those little sharp edges left on the pipe pieces after cutting them so that I wouldn't cut myself. Safety first. I sanded my 2 wood planks a little bit, and then I used some wood glue to glue them together side by side to create a larger wood plank to use as my project base. I'm using some folk art antique wax, which I will link for you below, to paint the 2 wood planks that we glued together. And I paint the top side and the edges and the ends. I'm using a dry paper towel to wipe away the excess wax. And I just wish all the wood we get at Dollar Tree took this antique wax as good as these planks did. Usually the cut wood squares and plaques and tumbling tower blocks do not take wax or stain nearly as good as these particular wood pieces did. I figure I'm always complaining about Dollar Tree to you guys, and I should compliment them when they get stuff right. So kudos to Dollar Tree for that. Good job. Now I used some 1-inch painter's tape to mark off the boundaries on my wood block that I didn't want to go over with the pipe pieces. I placed my 1.5-inch copper pipe pieces on the block where I wanted them, and I didn't measure them. I just eyeballed it. I placed some small marks with a pencil so that after I lifted them up, I'd know where to glue them back down again. For this project, I'm using this Surebonder super glue gel, which I'll link for you below, but the Dollar Tree super glue will work for this too if you prefer it. I'm using the Surebonder to attach all the copper pipe pieces onto the wood blocks, giving them each a couple of minutes for that super glue to set up. Then I placed all my shorter 1-inch copper pipe pieces down onto the wood block base, kind of intertwining around the taller copper pieces. Also marked them with a pencil and then glued them back down with the super glue. There is no rule with where you place the pieces. It's all up to you. They can be totally random or you can do a pattern. The choice is all yours. I gave the whole thing about 30 minutes for the super glue to totally set up. Now I'm going to be placing candles in the pipes, so I wanted to place something inside the pipes to raise up the candles. So for the shorter 1-inch pipe pieces, I decided to use 2 wood beads, kind of like the kind you get at Dollar Tree. I'm using 2 beads for the short pipes glued together, one on top of another, and then I realized if I glued them together on a toothpick, it'd be easier to keep them straight and together, just cutting the exposed toothpick off at the ends. I put a drop of glue on the bottom of the 2 beads before dropping them into the 6 1-inch copper pipe pieces. For those taller 1.5-inch copper pipe pieces, I'm gluing 3 beads together so that those candles can stand up higher than the shorter copper pipe candles. I also realized at some point that I'd be better off with something flat on top of all of those beads as a flat base for the candles to rest on. So I grabbed some of the gold push pins from Dollar Tree and added some glue to the pointy end of the push pin and dropped them into the hole at the top of the stacks of beads to create a flat base for all 12 of my candles to rest on. Lastly, I have these thinner utility candles I got on Amazon, and I'll link them for you below. You could also use the utility candles from Dollar Tree, but they're a little thicker, so you might need a thicker copper pipe like the 3/4 inch pipe instead of the smaller 1/2 inch pipes that we are using. To attach the candles inside, I use my hot glue gun, partially to use the heat to melt the wax a little bit, and also to add a touch of hot glue to help the candles stick to those push pin tops. And because my shorter pipe pieces have 2 beads in them and the longer pipe pieces have 3 beads in them, our candles are all 2 different heights, which I think adds to the charm of the piece. And this is my wood and copper pipe candelabra, and oh my goodness, I think this is gorgeous. It is currently in the middle of my dining room table where it is going to stay for the unforeseeable future because I think it's stunning. Stunning. So high-end, so upscale, and more like a Pottery Barn dupe than anything I've seen that's made out of Dollar Tree wood and utility copper pipes. Not a difficult project to make, and I'm loving it so much, I'm already planning out making a huge one as a centerpiece for the holidays this year. I hope you love this beautiful decor piece as much as I do. And there you have it, my DIY loving friends. Stunning high-end decor straight from the Dollar Tree. And all it took was a little creativity and a little bit of tumbling tower block magic. If you love these DIYs, don't forget to subscribe to Medicated Housewife DIY and join our crafty community for more budget-friendly home decor ideas. Let me know in the comments which DIY was your favorite and why. You know I love hearing from all of you. Thanks for watching, and remember, together we're making the world a more beautiful place, one DIY at a time.